Let's take a look at formatting a personal business letter. Instead of using Microsoft Word, we're going to use Google Docs. And we're, of course, doing this because of our situation. We're not in Room 8, but most of you do have access to Google Docs. You do not have to complete that which I'm going to do right now. I just want you to take a look at the approach and format of a Google Doc in order to produce a personal business letter. So step number one is to get a blank document. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and give this a title. Now this is going to be a personal business letter in block format, and as I get it finished, I will describe to you what block format means. In case I forget, what it does mean is that it has all of the text aligned on the left side. The next step is to set the margins. And we are going to use a standard set of margins here for this personal business letter. And that would be set up like this. This would also be set up in very similar fashion if using Microsoft Word. We'll click on File, scroll down to Page Setup. Orientation is going to be Portrait. We want our top margin to be 2 inches. Notice that the unit of measure is inches. The bottom 1 inch, left 1 inch, and the right margin 1 inch. And so you can see now we have this distance between here and here, 2 inches, and then on the left side we have a margin of 1 inch. And then also, as we type and allow word wrap to work, we never press enter when typing the body of a letter or when we need it to keep wrapping around and flowing throughout the page, but it will create a 1 inch margin on this side for us. The next step is to type the return address. And once again, the return address, do you remember what that is? That's right. The return address would be your address. So I'll go ahead and put in my address. And then we need to insert quad space, or 4 spaces. And the way you do that is that after I've typed the year, I'm going to press enter 4 times. And then I'm ready for the next line, which will be the letter address. And the letter address is that to whom we are mailing this letter. And sometimes postal codes are provided with the additional suffix of 4 values. Next, we need double spacing. So we just completed the address block, and now, or the letter address block, and then we need to do the salutation, which will be a double space below the letter address. And so to create double spacing, or 2 spaces, we press enter 2 times. And we type our salutation. We are going to use something called mixed punctuation, and therefore the way we are going to do our personal letters and also our business letters is that we will use punctuation after the salutation. So we will put a colon and then enter 2 times to type the body of the letter. Once we get to the end of a paragraph, we press enter 2 times to double space between paragraphs within the body of a personal business letter. And once again, we're at the end of the paragraph. I'm going to enter 2 times to double space between the paragraphs within the body. And now we're at the end of the body. It's time for the complimentary closing, which is part of the signature block. Once again, we double space at the end of the body. Sincerely, and this is where the mixed punctuation comes in. Here we have a colon after the salutation, and now we have to use a comma at the end of the complimentary closing. The meaning of mixed punctuation is this: if we use some punctuation here, we have to put something down here. For some personal business letters, it would be appropriate to just put a comma, and that would be a real informal type of business letter. Perhaps if you were writing to a friend or somebody you knew, but if not, you keep it a little bit more formal by using a colon. But remember, mixed punctuation means we have a colon here and a comma here. We could just have a comma here, but what it means is that if there's punctuation after the salutation, there needs to be punctuation after the complimentary closing. So I've typed that comma, and we need quad space so that we have room to sign our signature, sign our name. And so we're going to press enter how many times? Quad space, that's right, 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, of course, this will always be your name when you do a personal business letter because it's personal business. It's you. And then if there's any special notations, those would go a double space below. For example, if there were anything enclosed within this letter for the person to whom we are writing, and so we take a look here and we do see that there's some application documents enclosed. And so what we would want to do is to notate that here to bring to the reader's attention, Julie in this case. We want her to know that there is something else in there. And so it's just very polite to put the word enclosure here. And then if we were in the classroom, you would be printing this and turning it in. And of course you would sign your name here. And after you signed your name, it would look something like this. And I'll zoom out so you can see how that letter looks in a full view. And there you have it. A nice formatted personal business letter. You send a letter like this to somebody, they will be impressed. This is very nice. And the block formatting that I referred to earlier in this video means that everything is lined up at the left margin. This is known as a block format. And it is used frequently because it's a very simple and easy way to format either a personal business letter or just a business letter. But everything's lined up on the left side. And then notice over here on the right side, we did use word wrap. I never pressed enter when completing the body of the letter. I simply kept typing, and then I let the program, in this case Google Docs, go ahead and decide when it was time to break a line and move the word down to the next line. Once again, you have the return address, which would be you, current date that you're writing the letter. This section here is known as the letter address, salutation, the hello of the letter, and it's important to use a proper salutation. I believe I mentioned in a previous video, it's okay to use dear for just about every writing situation. If you're writing to somebody that's very close to you, maybe a boyfriend or girlfriend, husband, wife, you could say something like, "Dearest Julie," or "My love, Julie." But you would never do that in a more formal situation unless you're very familiar with the individual. Dear is very safe. You don't want to just put Julie. That's too informal. So dear is how you want to do that. And then we double space, and then we have that body. Remembering to double space between paragraphs. And then we come to our complimentary closing. And once again, you want to be careful with these. Sincerely is always, in just about any situation, appropriate to use for a personal or a business letter that we'll get to a little bit later. So you want to avoid things like yours truly, love always, forever yours, unless this is somebody that you know very well and they would not be offended in any way for you doing that. Then there's that 4 spaces, which is room to sign that with a pen. Never sign a letter with pencil. Ink, blue or black. Avoid pretty colors unless you're very familiar in sending a letter to a friend. Don't use fuchsia, cyan. You can use blue. Purple, no. Black or blue is appropriate for business. And then your name typed, and then enclosure because there is something enclosed. And so there you have it. There's a nice little tour of creating a personal business letter. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. I sure wish we were in room 8 though, so you could start typing away. What I will do though is provide you with some partially completed letters, and you will go in and simply put in some of the elements. What I need to do is avoid having to type too much, because I'm trying to design everything so that you can get it done on a smartphone. And as always, thank you for checking in and watching this video.